Hey Computational Thinking. In this short video, I'm going to go over how we're going to start using Pytest in your homework assignments. Pytest is a tool that allows you to test your code on your own to see if it is correct, to see if your work is correct. Now that we're going to be talking about functions and writing almost all of our code within functions, this allows us to use Pytest and you to use Pytest to make checking your homework much easier. So I'm going to show you how to do that in this video. I'm not actually going to really talk about how functions work in this video. We're going to do that in class throughout this week and more, but this video I'm just focusing on how Pytest actually works. So let's get started. Okay, so I'm in assignment 1 for this week's homework. And I want you to notice that the first thing that's a little different is I've got this extra window over here where it says homework 8.1 and then there's a dollar sign. Okay, so here's our Python shell up here where we can say things like 7 plus 7. But if we try to do that down here, we're going to get an error. Okay, and this is called a bash shell. It's like a command line tool if you've ever used command line on Windows or anything like that. But if you haven't, it's not complicated. We're not going to be using it for a lot of stuff other than Pytest. So don't freak out if you're thinking I have no idea what a command line is. Now if you don't have this screen or this second window, you can press Control-Shift-S at the same time and it's going to bring it up for you. And if you don't see anything over here, just press Enter and you should see this output right here. Now in order to test my code, all I have to do is type Pytest, like that, P-Y-T-E-S-T. I'll press Enter, and then I'm going to see a bunch of tests run on my code. This is a lot of information, so let's break it down. Notice in my Python file, I've got a function called return name, and then the keyword pass underneath it. So it says this function should accept a string name and return it. This is the simplest possible function you could get. So once I ran Pytest, I got this crazy output, right? And a couple things you should notice is, for example, this test, return name, it shares the name of the function. So test return name is the test for return name. And then it tells me, okay, this is part of failures, right? So these are all tests that I failed. Fair enough. All right, so let's learn how to read this thing. Here's the line that you want to worry about, where it says assertion error, assert none equals Bob. Now basically, what this means is that this function should have returned Bob like this, but it returned none. So another way of thinking about that is this is what the function actually returned, or this is what the test expected, I should say. So until none is Bob, this isn't going to work. Well, let's fix this up. Now, let's try return Bob and see what happens. Spoiler alert, that's not the correct answer, but we're going to do it anyway, just to see what happens. So let's see. We failed it again. So let's scroll back on up to test return name, and notice that now I've got assert main.return name Bob equals Bob. Well, it seems like that one worked out, but then I've got another assertion error where it says Bob is equal to Jim. So basically what's supposed to be happening here is that I'm only returning whatever the function gets as an argument. So the long story short is I should be returning name here. All right, so I'm going to run this code again, or I'm going to run my Pytest again. I actually don't have to run the code again. I can just run Pytest. Okay. And notice now at the very bottom I get this 5 failed, 1 passed. And if I scroll up, I'm not going to see the test return name anymore because it's no longer a failure. Okay. So once I get that passed, it means I'm good to go. And it's going to show you every other function that's failing all the time, and that's okay. So notice that all these others like add, subtract, POW, true division, and floor division, those are all still failing. Let's do one more. Give you a free answer just to help you understand what's going to go on. So right now I'm failing test add. So when I run this code again and I'm failing test add, notice that it says assert none equals 278. But what I should have gotten is 139 plus 139. The result of 139 plus 139 is 278. So you can see like what were the values I had and what's the value I was supposed to get from the function as a return value. But you know how to make a sum, so we'll say return a plus b, and then we'll rerun our Pytests. And now we see 2 passed. Okay, so we're doing this one correctly, and we get 2 pass tests because both return name and add are working. So there you go. That's pretty basic Pytest stuff. You'll get more experience with this as you go. I know it's hard to read, but if you take the time to get used to it, I promise it's more informative than you think.